This is an arc analysis.
This is an arc analysis.
This is
Arc
arc.
analysis.
I. Are
That what you're gonna say? Analysis?
Asises.
Asises.
Like ISIS's. That's how that works, right? ISIS?
What?
Like cacti, analysis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What?
It's late, people. So if this doesn't make the cut, you know why.
That Texas Blood. Volume 1. Published by Image Comics 2020, written by CHRIS CONDON, drawn by JACOB Phillips. This is the first book we've done by them, either of them, actually.
Well, we've done Phillips before.
Brothers. No, that's Sean Phillips. This
Oh.
is a different Phillips, yeah. This is
No
Jacob
relation?
Phillips. I don't know. Let's look. Jacob.
There's got to be. There's a lot of similarities, and that's why I thought you chose this book, because it's another kind of criminal, slow noir, like No Country for Old Men, really well paced out.
Check this out. Jacob Phillips is the son of comic artist Sean Phillips.
Well, look at that.
I didn't even know that. We just found that out live. That's exciting stuff. But you can tell, you're absolutely right. The art's very...
Yeah, it's almost plagiarized. That's
what I was similar. Like, it's not the same, but it's very similar.
I get you, but like that's why I saw Phillips and I was like, okay, that's the reason why I thought Coke reached out for this comic, because you kind of got me glued on the dynamic duo, Brubaker and Phillips, because they have a rhythm. And
so I didn't pick it because of Phillips. I just picked it because I don't know why I picked it. This is from a while ago. 2020 is when it came out. So I don't remember when I added it, but I did. That Texas Blood. Well,
it's easy to see why you keep going back to these type of properties. They're slow burns. It's usually you have to invest in the characters, and either it rewards you or it doesn't, but you're following the path of usually a character, a plot device, or like a town. And this one has kind of all three roped up in together, because they paint like this small town in Texas as something that you have to pay attention to. So like you're not really getting rewarded in the first issue. Nothing really happens until they just put all the pieces on the map. And it's the second issue where you're just like, who's this? What did this happen? Who's this guy? And, I don't think we're going to spoil this one.
No, because I didn't pick this on purpose, but you're right. I am drawn to stories like this.
So you did pick this on purpose?
Well, no, not for this reason. I didn't know what it was. I remember seeing it around. I saw it a couple of times just floating around. I was like, let's try that one. That's honestly how I usually pick them. I was like, let's try that one. that one looks interesting. Or sometimes I'll be like, that one looks bad, but then it's not. Or sometimes I'm like, that one looks good and it's not. Right. So this one was like, oh, okay. It's kind of southern Texas. Like, we haven't done one of these in a while. Let's give it a try. And I opened with, because the main character, Joe Bob, he's so funny because he's just like whenever he's faced with any sort of dilemma or situation at all, whether it's good or bad, his response is,
That's why I kind of really like the relationship between him and his wife.
Yeah, they're hilarious
because they have such a shorthand. Like, they've been married for as long as you can be married, and they just kind of understand each other. So those panels where they're just like eating dinner is like, scratch his head. I just like it's funnier than it tends to be.
Yeah,
but makes sense because in other, like, this was almost for me too much exposition but they were just kind of laying the pieces down.
Yeah.
So those moments of just like Joe Bob in his own head as he tries to figure out what's happening in his town were great. Yeah. Because the art style lends to the fact that he's been doing this for so long that he's used to a certain type of crime. And this is kind of outside of his comfort zone. And like that whole casserole dish reveal, I was like, that was pretty good. Like,
casserole was cool, yeah.
Because you thought it was leaning one way, and it's like, nope, we gotta pay attention to all this other stuff over here. So Again, I said No Country for Old Men for a reason, because if anyone's ever seen that movie, if not, like, high recommend. You think you're watching something, and because it feels like that movie's like a changing of the guard, there's a lot of things happening now in this world that the old guard can't keep up with. This is kind of that book as well. Like, Joe Bob's like over his head in a lot of things, but also the perfect man for the job for what's going on.
Now this was 6 issues. Like you said, the first issue deals with the casserole dish, and the other 5 issues uh, are called Our Brother's Conscience. So we call it Volume One because it's kind of 2 arcs in one, or it's like a prelude and an arc. And you're right, it's about Joe Bob, who is a sheriff of some South Texas town. He just turned 70, and this character named Randy Terrell, who doesn't live in the town but grew up there. His brother, he finds that his brother dies, so he goes to he goes to this town, and like you were talking about the changing of the guard and things that were over his head, he gets pulled in wicked fast, like 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 comically fast. Like it was because he tells his wife or his girlfriend, "You can't come with me. I got to do this on my own." Type thing. It's kind of like, okay, well now he's gonna get into some dirt. Like as a reader, you know that just from that moment, right?
Right.
And he does. The second he steps foot in the town, he's into some shit. It's like, and I find that kind of funny. It was like, I don't want to say it's jarring because I can't criticize the writing in this is good, but it was so fast. There was no build up to like him trying to like resist.
No.
It's just like right back to your old ways. Bam. As soon as he got a little bit of pussy, the pussy's gonna get him killed.
Is going to get him killed. I would say in regards to the writing, it's second fiddle. Like, the artwork definitely captures your attention a little more. And there's certain panels. Like, there's one where I can't remember the brother's name, but
Travis,
he's
Randy
hold
and Travis.
he's holding onto a bottle and he drops it, and they show the falling of the bottle, but they cut it in paneling where you get to see his torso from his waist down to his feet, but the bottle passes through that. And there's certain moments where like it takes you out of the standard 9x9 paneling, but the artwork really lets you feel like you're in this town. It's monotonous. You, like, in the beginning, you just see the same sort of silhouette and like the horizon, but in certain moments, like, you start to steal. He'll play with color and the emotion of that, right? Like, there's a certain moment where a police car pulls up and you'll see it splashed in red and then splashed in blue and then splashed in red and then splashed in blue. Like, the art really draws you into what's happening, and it's almost like you're seeing the descent of certain characters and kind of the reveal of who they really are internally. And the the writing doesn't always tell you that. It's the artwork that like shows you like, oh, like, this is a town of like everybody's kind of fucked up, everybody, and like the twist at the end. Like, I wasn't expecting the twist that happened.
I kind of saw that coming. They foreshadowed that though. To be fair,
I don't know how to talk about it without talking about it.
yeah,
So
they did foreshadow
yes
that.
and no, but when they introduce characters, I like that they have specific stories to
Mm-hmm.
who you think the protagonist is. But there's a lot going on for this small town, right? Like, you're meeting
Yeah,
a lot of characters for the first time, and then there's a bit of a revenge plot that like that goes left field too. I wasn't expecting Bro to go off the way he did.
that was that surprised me. That's what I mean by he got pulled. That's what I mean. He got pulled right back into the dirt. It was like, whoa, all
Yeah,
right,
no middle ground, but it's kind of like he always belonged there,
yeah.
and it's interesting to see if he was more that side than his brother was, or was it his brother? Like, I don't know if it was a chicken versus the egg or the egg versus chicken kind of situation.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up because it was when I was reading it, it was actually kind of funny how he just gets pulled right back into his old town ways, I guess, and his reputation. But then you kind of stop and think like, well, maybe that's because he can't help it. Like he's like, was he the cat? Because they said a lot of the town folk don't like him being there,
Yeah,
and it's
I
and they
wonder
say,
why.
yeah. You learn why.
Yeah, very fast.
But he said they talk about his brother a lot and how much dirt his brother did and how his brother pulled him down into the dirt with him. But I don't know, man. He seemed like they don't really. But that's what's cool though. Is they don't tell you. everything that they did when they were kids. They just say they did some bad stuff.
Yeah, you don't know what extent.
I like that. They don't tell you what it is. It's just, these kids were getting into some shit, and he comes down back to the small town, and he's right back in the swing of things. It's like, how bad was he? Was he the good son, or was he just as bad as his brother and never got caught? And so that's kind of cool because it lets the reader kind of imagine,
Yeah, and
think about it.
smart enough to have everyone in the town know him.
Hmm.
And like when he comes back, he's just going for a BLT, and already that like turns into this whole like you're back here, and it's like it's just downfall from there, right? So I love that everybody around him was self aware, and he wasn't. So like it makes him seem like the outlier, and you don't know if
Hmm.
that's for a reason. You don't know if he's protecting himself. You don't know. You definitely know he left for reasons, but they don't really tell you why. And then he gets dragged back into it. So it's it's basically hard to win in Texas based on how this
Yeah.
comic book unfolds. But definitely a dark like I was reading some comments saying like it was a horror, and I was like I'm gonna go that far, but it's definitely a crime noir. Going
Yeah.
back to that like slow paced.
There's horror elements. I wouldn't say it. You're right. I wouldn't call it a horror book, but there are some creepy and scary elements for sure.
Um, but it definitely like it's paced to be a slow burn of it wants you to invest in these specific characters that it takes more time and dialogue with, which is like Sheriff, like Joe. We spend so much time with him that you kind of empathize with. He may be in over his head until you figure out what he's actually up against.
Hmm. And
So
meanwhile, he's like the only one in the book who he seems like. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, no.
he seems like he's over his head. But then he's the only one in the book that's actually going to stop and look at the big picture a bit. Like he's actually, I mean, everybody else is kind of rushing to conclusions and this and that and this happened and that happened, and this person's to blame. He's kind of like, well, let's back up and take a look at everything here, and he analyzes it more than anybody else does, which shows. I mean, he's 70, but
yeah,
it shows his experience, right?
yeah. What more do you want to say about this book? It's hard. Again, this is one of the books that I'd love to go into depth about, like everything I loved about this, but it'd be easily ruined. And it's a story that rewards the reader that stays with specific characters. I feel bad for the girlfriend. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but at the same time, though, like he told you why are you gonna do that? Why are you gonna go down there?
But that's some of that is like I feel baked in. Like she knew who he was before he knew who he was.
Yeah.
Like it's a relationship. But like I'm protecting you from going back to a different version of you. Essentially, she doesn't want him to become the worst version of Frank the Tank. So like, don't go partying. Don't let no beer touch your lips, right?
Yeah.
And by the time she gets out there, like beer has been all over his breath.
He's like a different person.
Yes.
I was like, wow, how long has it been? Like 2 days? That's crazy. But
And
then
it's
it
just
kind of
madness. And like
yeah,
that's kind of the horror element because there's certain frames where like they've drawn him like straight on and like dead eyed, and I was like,
yeah,
this kid, like where did he lose all this life? Like and
yeah,
just little panels that say revenge. Like he's so hell bent on trying to find out what he believes is going to be justice and reveal him that like he was so off the wrong, but like he was on the wrong path completely, and then like his search for justice wasn't even correct, and like his version of justice was even far gone to what he had, but like amazing to watch, but goddamn, like he's an idiot.
but then you think too is like, was he always just this crazy, and this gave him a reason to kind of let it out because he switches like a
Yeah,
light switch, right? Like, and if he knew it was there, why would you even go? Maybe he didn't know he was capable of all that, but if he did, why would you even go back?
I don't know.
Right? It poses some questions. It also it shows that this book is, I believe, an anthology. I didn't read past this.
And that was my next question. Like,
Yeah.
do we, because the series keeps going after this one, or I guess first case, are we following Joe Bob? Are we following the town? Is there a specific character that we're moving forward with? Or is it just shit that happens in Texas, like True Detective, which is now coming back? There's another season of True Detective that I just saw a trailer for. So
I never watched three. I gotta watch three, but this
three's
book
better than two. One is still exceptional, but
one
like
is yeah.
Stephen Dorff and Mahershala Ali for season
Oh,
three.
Yeah. Right.
They went back to their same rhythm that they had in the first one, which is, I
Good.
guess, no female cops.
They ruined the second season.
How dare they have a lady cop?
Yeah, that season was weird. That second season was weird.
They're trying a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing there, but you're right. Books like these they do make me think of True Detective quite a bit.
Surprised there's
Just
no
in the
True Detective comic book, although
I bet there probably is.
probably is.
Do you want me to look? I'm gonna look right now.
Might as well. What more can I say about this art? It There's a specific stylized that I like that was not, you couldn't see in the first Phillips that we covered. He likes doing, I don't know, it's kind of like a marker brush style that even if it's a solid color, there's like an offset shaded color, and you constantly see lines being pulled down. Either they're frenetic or they're like compacted, and it gives like a specific life and a drop to each panel and each character. So like, I like that there's always like a horizontal line that's not in focus. Characters all look lifelike, but there's a certain surrealism to the way that they blend color, blood, and like the different motifs. Like I love like sunset, and like anytime it's like supposed to be purple at night or like complete night, because then he lets kind of all these rainbow colors pop in. But that's what drew me in, because I thought it was just going to be one thing, and it slowly starts to peel back into this other kind of craziness. And again, I thought this was original Phillips, and you're telling me
No, Jake, it's his kid, his son.
So
Proud dad, man. The art looks great. Because that's it's funny because when I was reading it, I didn't like that. Actually, didn't click with me. I was reading, I was like, this art looks familiar, and I looked at who's the artist. I was like, Phillips. I was like, oh, but it's not Sean. And then I remember thinking maybe there's a relation, but I didn't look it up. I just forgot, or I didn't think about it. I was obviously well prepared for this episode,
but the art style is the same, and then the storytelling is kind of the same. Like this reminded me of Criminal. This reminded me of, like, name one of the 6 that we covered. Like it has the same sort of beats of like you think you're following one thing, and then all of a sudden abruptly something else is going on, and everyone has like a deep, dirty past, and anyone that doesn't is going to end up heartbroken very quickly. And there's no real resolution. There's an ending,
yeah.
but like true to form of life, there's so many ripples that happen once you get an ending that it's not going to be wrapped up in a nice little bow, right? That's the haunting in it. It's just like, well, this chapter's closed. It's like, what's going to happen in the next chapter? So
Yeah, not everybody gets a happy ending either.
Like,
So I'm interested.
does anybody get that happy?
We'll have to. I wasn't gonna put the volume 2 down. Maybe we will do that, because I'm interested to see if it follows, like you said, if it follows Joe Bob or if it follows, because Randy, you assume his story's kind of capped off, but
I don't know. Comic book logic. He could be a triplet, and then his
oh my god,
his third brother Zool could come back.
Incognito. He's back. Remember that? Oh man,
Can we go back to that comic book? We have to go back to stuff we don't like.
We were happy with it, and then we're like, "What is this?"
It just made a sharp left turn, and you couldn't make sense of it.
First issue was so good, dude.
But arguably, it made it more entertaining because they're just like, let's
give us something to talk about.
Triplets.
But anyways, we rate these on a good or bad basis. Boom being good, Bob being bad, and whoosh for what did I just read? We sometimes use when we're confused, but this is a boom for me.
Yeah, it's hard not to beat. Anytime we try not to spoil the book for listeners, that's an easy boom.
We do kind of bury the lead, don't we, when we say that? We're like, oh, we're not going to spoil this one.
I mean, we can right now. The dog did it.
Yeah, the dog with the shifty eyes.
There was a little, again, that's why I like the art styles. There's certain scenes where they just repeat the same frame. Like there's the cop car and then the brother's car.
Yeah.
And then the next frame you just see like a dog walk by. It's just like, that's kind of Texas, right? Like nothing happens and everything happens. It's a weird juxtaposition that works.
Did they even name the town? They did name the town. I don't remember the name of it, but it's like this little town in Texas that's very, very, it feels very open. Like there's no it doesn't feel like it's very guarded. It's just kind of.
Any ASR fans in there? That was Coke scratching his beard.
Did you hear that?
I heard all of that.
Oh man,
that's staying in. That's quality.
That's why you were looking like that. You had this weird look on your face, and I was like,
but I hit, gosh. I was like, he's getting in there. You went straight into the mic. You wanted the people to know.
I turned the mic up.
I mean,
I'll stay on my headphone.
We in fall now. The autumn is coming, bringing in beards.
Anyways, it's this is worth the read. It's good. It's a nice little
That's
lazy read.
that's getting cutting out. There you go. Scratch of approval. This
This is
is
Arc Analysis.
Arc
This is
Analysis.